Hey guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories. Danmachi x Tensura fanfic by Crimson9943 Chapter 6. Even if he said he will take the blame, I ask you not to blame him. Because if you don't know, I am very, very bad at grammar, to the point where both editors said a common thing to me: the sentences you write does not make sense. That's why I am always grateful to these guys who always help me correct my mistake. Testarossa even taught me how to edit. And if you had any problems with the chapter, then it's probably because I might have rushed this chapter. Because the next chapter going to be late. So heads up. Oh, and shout out to the people who pointed out important factors I overlooked. Especially the Magicule's presence. Thank you Kirika-chan for that, and reviews are appreciated and it will make the next chapter uploading sooner. Oh, I will daily check my PMs. So if anyone has anything to say, use PMs. Few had already contacted. It enjoy the story. Rimuru Pav, you're right. Unfortunately, most of the people I've killed never got a chance to talk first, I said. I only realized my blunder after the milk was spilled. But Hestia didn't say anything else. I could guess what she was thinking. To my relief, she didn't ask further about it. We walked in silence during the rest of the journey to the guild. We reached the center of the city according to CL's map. I saw an abundance of different races outside. There were many stalls open, and many people advertising their products. I could see a few adventures here and there. We walked through the crowd, but after a few minutes, I could feel my senses tingling approaching the guild. After we took a turn to avoid the crowd, I was about to ask Hestia if this was the right way, but CL interrupted me. A magical presence has been detected a few meters ahead and it is hostile. Is this a god? According to Hestia, the guild is run by a god named Oranos. No, but it isn't human either. I have a bad feeling about this. I turned towards Hestia, who was walking beside me in deep thought. I think it's best for you to return after all. Hestia looked at me. Her face filled with confusion. It looked like she wanted to ask, why? Master, the signature is closing in, and it's fast. You are leaving now, I said before she could form a sentence in her mouth. I teleported her back to the church. After confirming she reached the destination, I looked at the moon, its light shining brightly through the night sky with a white glow illuminating most of the pathway. First, there was no response, but after a moment a shadow stepped forward. It wore a black cloak. Its face was hidden well so I couldn't see its face. It gazed at where Hestia once stood, asking, "Where did you send Lady Hestia to?" "Why should I tell you?" I retorted. I was curious about its voice because it was neither of a male nor female, but as a monster myself it takes more than that to creep me out. I sent her back because I sensed your hostility. So what makes you think I will tell you her location? I said. The thing tilted its head, asking, "You were concerned for her?" It looks like this entity has a hard time trusting me. Seeing as I didn't reply, it took a deep sigh, saying, "Listen, I am just worried. Even if Lady Hestia doesn't have any power in Orario, she is still a goddess, so I was just concerned for her. It's not every day a goddess disappears in front of your eyes." CL, it is telling the truth. I relaxed my stance after getting a reply from CL. I had asked her to prepare a lie detection skill for me earlier because God knows when I will need it. Well, if it doesn't have an alternative motive, it's fine to give it a little information, I thought. The hostility I'm sensing seems to be its wariness. All I can say is that she is safe and sound, I say. It hard to believe the words otherworlder who is not even a human. I stepped forward toward the black figure. I am not from this world, but I am a member of her familia, I say, now in front of him. I could tell that it was surprised by the new info. I remember Hestia telling me the letter came in her name, but they might not know our relationship as a whole. So her safety is my responsibility, I said, scanning it from head to toe. Maybe due to my harsh gaze, it trembled and looked away. I walked towards it, and not being human looks like something we both have in common, I say, taunting him. My comment might be a bit cold. No, it might be a bit off my character. I was a polite guy in my past life, and I like to believe I was able to hold onto that part of my character in this life too. But these few days I experience this new feeling. Being a monster, it will be their intrinsic feeling to follow the strong, fight to know who is strong, and grow stronger. I am now strong. I know that, but I always want to know my limit. I want to know how strong I am. I want to go all out for once. These feelings and thoughts constantly haunt my mind. I don't like fighting, but just once. Just this one time I want to fight someone, putting everything on the line, giving it my all. But alas, fighting people weaker than me doesn't help. I am not allowed to challenge the labyrinth because if I lose it will be embarrassing as a person who has the title of a ruler. If I go inside the labyrinth, all guardians will be sent to a hospital for their injuries. I am sure if I'm giving it my all, a lot of them will be injured, resulting in closing the labyrinth. This affects the income of Tempest, and I am pretty sure Ramirez will be pissed off by that. It goes the same for Veldora because he is basically acting as a battery for the labyrinth. I cannot allow him to be low on mana. Right now there is a body double of Veldora who constantly supplies mana to the labyrinth. He said to me as long as his original body is fine, his body will not stop supplying power. A great feat if you consider his real body and his body double are in different worlds. And I cannot challenge Milim and Guy because it will end in the destruction of the world. Even Ramirez was baffled when I asked if the labyrinth could contain the backlash. She even asked me whether I was planning to kill her secretly. Ruminez is out of the question because a battle with her will only be a battle of wits, which is not what I am looking for. If I challenge Chloe, that blonde lolicon of a demon lord will declare war on me. If I challenge the blonde lolicon, he will ignore me. And the other problem is I am not exactly the type of guy who goes challenging people, so it's frustrating. And right now this fellow is picking a fight with me, and I don't plan to show him my Mr. Nice Guy attitude right now. From the way he is interrogating me, it's obvious that he does not like me. Should I just vent my stress on him or not, was what I was thinking. I am not a monster, the cloaked figure said, interrupting my train of thought. I smiled at his attempt at defense. I never said you were, I replied. I was once a human. I again heard its voice. Regret, pride, and anguish filled his words. I glanced back. Then we are more alike than I thought. There was an uneasy silence between us. Neither of us spoke, so I decided to break the ice. You can assess me afterward. Now lead the way to your boss. Didn't he want to meet me? It nodded, and without another word, it leads the way. After a few minutes we both were walking through the streets of Orario. No, it's good to say we were walking through a maze. On the first look, there is nothing different from a normal street, but the more you walk inside the more confusing it gets, and at some point, it is easy to get lost even if we have little disturbances in our direction. This is Daedalus Street. The creator of this street was a rather eccentric man. He created this street to be complex. As if he read my mind, it answered me. I looked around, not commenting on what he said. Well, is your base here? No. The pathway is. After saying that, it stopped at a side street. It looked like starting from here the region was similar to a slum. It pressed on the wall to our left. With a little click, the wall started to move to a side, opening up a path. Wow, secret doors and moving walls. These were clichés taken straight out of a spy movie. But I didn't exclaim this fact, I just kept that fact to myself. We walked for some more in a dark path until torches started to show up on the wall. After a few more minutes of walking, we reached a door. It stopped in front of the door. From here you have to go alone. You just have to walk in a straight line. I nodded and opened the door, walking on the path. After walking, I reached a hall, and at the end of the hall, a god was sitting on a chair. From his appearance, the god looked like an old man with white hair, and he wore a white robe with a black hooded cloak. Greetings. I would have loved to stand up and greet you properly, but I have to apologize because I am not in a position to do so, the old god's voice boomed through the hall. I looked around the hall. It was not shabby, but it didn't contain anything. It was plain and simple. Well, I don't mind, I said. I appreciate your open mind. Now let us discuss the reason why I summoned you here. The old god glared at me. I felt intense pressure from those eyes. Why has someone from the celestial dragon Veldanava's world come to this world? Wasn't it within our pact not to interfere with each other? So the celestial dragon was in fact Veldanava. Before that, doesn't this world contain the common courtesy to introduce themselves first? The old god seemed to be taken back by what I said. Once he comprehended what I meant, he took a deep breath. I apologize again for my misconduct. I am Oranos. I am the patron god of the Guild of Orario. Wah. It was from this title alone I could assume this guy is important. Well, I am Demon Lord Rimuru. It is a pleasure to meet you. It was the second time I formally introduced myself. And for your question, Veldanava is already dead. There are no hints of him being reborn again. Are you saying that as a reason to break the sacred promise with us, the gods? I scowled at him. I abhor his attitude. I am saying it was Veldanava whom you made that promise with, not me. Veldanava does not rule me. I don't have an obligation to keep promises between you guys. Hell, I didn't know there was a promise in the first place. We both had a staring competition for some time. Can I believe your word on Veldanava death? I nodded. He died thousands of years before I was born into that world. Because we are in a different world, there will be a time gap of a few hundred years, give or take. I cannot believe such a being died, Orano said with disbelief. He was shocked. Anything else? I was restless. The old god nodded. Why are you here? I blinked and blinked again. I wasn't expecting that this guy was going to ask why I was here. I am in disbelief, that's it. He looked at me with confusion. Yes. I mean, is that it? I just told you that I am a demon lord. Oranos nodded. Yes, I remember you introducing yourself with that title. Were you anticipating something? Well, if I said I wasn't, it would be a lie. I was expecting you to unleash your power and threaten me when I said I was a demon lord. Oranos chuckled at my comment. He might have figured out what I was hinting. Did Hestia welcome you like that? I shrugged and remembered the memory of our standoff. Again, if I say she didn't, then it would be a lie. But you know, from my perspective, what she did was normal. Actually, I would do the same as she did. What you are doing is abnormal. Yet you introduce yourself as a demon lord a second time. I rolled my eyes, gesturing I didn't care. The old god leaned back in his chair. Me and Hestia, we both are just two individuals with our own way of thinking, demon lord. Hestia is a young goddess in the lower world. She is yet to be familiar with the cruelty of this world. So she might see this world in a black and white view, where heroes being good and demon lords being bad. What about you? Can I presume that you are familiar with the cruelty of the world? Oranos again chuckled, but this time there wasn't a sense of humor like last time. It almost sounded like pity. Yes is what I want to say, but what I have seen is just a part of it. But I believe power and title do not make a person good or bad. How the person uses said power makes them good or bad. So to see the truth of this world, I choose to judge people through their actions. You and your companions are very dangerous, but you haven't yet taken actions to be seen in a negative light. Seal. It is not a lie. Damn, that was cool. I almost respect this guy. No, it is good to say I have respect for him. After seeing Demon Lord Guy Crimson, and other demon lords with weird personalities, it is rejuvenating to see a sane leader like him. Even so, I didn't show it. I just asked, are you familiar with the cruelty of the world? A simple yes or no would have been enough. I said in a mocking tone. Yes, it would have been. As I said earlier, I want to know whether you are a friend or a foe, so I am letting you know where I am standing. He is testing whether I'm dangerous or not. My way of assessing people is much more simple. Those who want to bring harm on me and my friends are evil, and all others are good or somewhere in middle. Oranos looked at me with interest. So you won't attack unless you are attacked? I nodded. That I can promise. Oranos nodded with relief. If you ask about my reason for being here, I already told Hestia, but I don't have one. I am here on an impulse, although it was influenced by my curiosity for knowledge of a new world and my desire to have an adventure. And my plan is I don't have one, that's why I am willing to watch over Hestia and her familia for now. That was our deal. A deal. Quote. I give her protection and she gives me resources. I put it in simple words. The old god put his hand on his chin. His eyes widened a little. I am a little surprised by Hestia's action. I guess she was desperate. Otherwise, she wouldn't have made that kind of deal. I too was taken back a little by his response, but it made more sense that Hestia allowed me in the familia. Desperate, huh? Please protect Bell. I don't want to lose him. The image of a white-haired child rubbing his head with an aloof smile on his face came to my mind, and the concerned glances of the young goddess that she threw at him whenever he talked to me, which he never noticed, and the conviction in her eyes when she told me to protect Bell. He surely is loved, I thought. Oranos looked at the demon lord. For some reason, the demon lord had a smile on his face. Oranos didn't pursue the matter more. So, you are joining Hestia Familia? I nodded. That was the plan, but there is a problem. Oranos raised his eyebrow. It seems like we are not compatible with this thing called Falna. I was expecting him to ask more about this matter, but to my surprise, he replied, so you are not a member of her familia. Oranos sat straight. His face became serious. Then would you like to work for the guild? I promise to give you twice, no thrice what Hestia has offered you. I shook my head. He sure is straightforward. I already told you I made a deal with her. And I am not a person to go back on my word. There was no answer for some time, so I asked, was that a test? No, that was my genuine move to recruit an ally to my side. Can't say I'm not disappointed. Is that all? If so, then I'm leaving. I turned to leave. But I am still asking for you to work for me. His voice stopped me. I was surprised. I am sure from this small conversation that this guy is one of the most sensible guys I have talked to. So I didn't think of him as dense, but before I was about to reject, I am not asking you to leave Hestia Familia or break your promise with her. But like Hestia in the future, I also might fall into desperate situations even though I am the guild master. The guild doesn't possess any significant manpower. That is why I am proposing this offer again. I would appreciate it if you give me any sort of positive response. In return, we will compensate you handsomely and you will have the support of the guild. Are all the people in this world desperate? Well, I don't mind accepting his request. Actually, I really enjoyed talking with him and I'm hoping to build a good relationship with him, and having the support of the guild is a huge gain. Yet there was a question dancing in my mind when he used the term manpower. I can guess what he meant by that. Why me? You don't even know what I am capable of. So will you get relief knowing that I will be on your side? The old god took a deep breath. As I said, the Guild of Orario doesn't possess notable manpower, yet it can operate this city and act as its core. Can you guess how we achieved this? Outsourcing, I mean by passing work over to others. The god nodded. Yes, that is where adventures and familias come in. Right now there are 3 major familias in Orario. The Loki Familia, Freya Familia, Ganesha Familia, and the Hermes Familia, which works for the guild undercover. They are the ones that keep others in check. So the guild passes important work to them. At first glance everything is fine, but it's not. All of these adventurers are loyal to their patron gods respectively, and these gods will make their private interests their priority. So we cannot always depend on adventurers. Another problem will be a lack of secrecy. Giving them secret information about the guild would be equal to giving them the end of the leash on our neck. They will not hesitate to use it to take advantage of the guild. That again brings us to my second question. I said with a serious tone, can you feel relief knowing that I am on your side? You cannot control me. So can you trust me? I can also do the things you just mentioned, and I too will prioritize my interests first. The words trailing off my tongue fluently. I know what it takes to cross over a world. For thousands of years gods have tried to send spies to other worlds, but all attempts failed. Even for me at my prime it was an impossible feat. No, I thought it was foolish to even for me to try to achieve that, and now there's a being that stands in front of me who's achieved that feat. So even if we both are not on the same side, I would hate to see you as an opposing force, and I believe that no matter what the odds this world throw at me, if I have you as my ally I can even those odds. So he was trying to eliminate the possibility of being hostile. I can put up with that. Let me ask you a question, Oranos, what do you make of Hestia? She is a gentle goddess. Even though she is trying to outdo Loki, she doesn't care about getting authority or gaining power. I put my hand on my chin. So Hestia doesn't have a hostile relationship with the guild and isn't interested in getting power or authority. I also don't plan to take over Orario. But I need to confirm this bit of information. So, she is not someone who comes in your way or plans. Oranos nodded. The future is unknown, but currently I think both Hestia and myself don't have a reason for hostility. I glanced at him. You know I am a demon lord. I heard it the first time, Oranos answered. I have killed more people than you count with your fingers. I guessed the possibility of it, but I want to believe from your earlier words that you are not someone who takes lives without reason, Oranos confirmed. I have brought another demon lord, a dragon, and a hero with me. Oranos thought about the newfound information. The more allies we have, the better. As long as you give me your word that you will keep them under control, I will not oppose it. I would have liked to meet them once though. I sighed. I don't know why you are going out of your way for this. But I can't work under you. After all, I am not a hero who works for charity or others' sake. I am a ruler. It is my job to rule over others, not the other way. Even though I am a polite guy, I have my pride, but I can compromise. Oranos looked at me with interest. I thought he might literally jump down from his seat. Have you heard of the concept of debt? You mean favors? I nodded in confirmation. Yes, right now there are few things I need. If you provide me with supplies, then I am willing to take your request for the favors you have done. Of course, if it's against my morals, I will refuse it. Even though I will accept your request, I will work on it of my own accord. Never at once think I am working under you. Never once think you could control me, and though I'm a lenient guy, try to cross me and I will be your worst nightmare. As a point of emphasis, I flared out my magic, suffocating the room with my suppressed haki. Oranos flinched at a sudden outburst of magical power. He could feel his divinity weakening at a fast rate, and before he could say anything, the outburst stopped. His power started to come back to him. He unconsciously sighed with relief. He thought he was prepared for the worst, yet today he was genuinely afraid of the demon lord in front of him. He could still feel sweat drops forming on his forehead. I understand. What is it you want? I childishly smirked at him. First, I need money. Capital is important in every world, isn't it? Oranos looked at the demon lord, who laughing playfully. He couldn't believe this being was the one who gave of that suffocating aura earlier. Yes, right now I can provide you with a handsome amount of money as an advance for in the future for taking on my requests, but that's all the money I can give you. If you want more, I can provide you with money as a reward if you finish the requests. Oh, this turns out to be a side quest. I nodded. That's fair then. Second is access to information. I asked Hestia the same, but the more I have the better. I am a guild master. There is a limit to how much I can share. But I will share my knowledge with you as much as I can. There was concern in his voice. I waved my hand. Don't worry, I will not force you on that, and I won't ask for military secrets. And I can also share information, I said, even I don't look like it. I am a ruler of a big country, and from the look of it, my country is far more developed from this one, so I could share some valuable knowledge. Oranos nodded in satisfaction. A fair trade on development, I see. That is good. Anything else? The legal formalities and procedures for us to join the Hestia Familia, can you deal with that? I asked. It might take some time, but I will send a representative tomorrow to make contact with you. Yosh. I could feel happiness getting the job done. Then let us meet again. Oranos nodded. Very well, Demon Lord. I am looking forward to our cooperation. I turned back but stopped. After taking a few steps, I glanced back. How did you know the fact that we were from Veldanava's world? I mean, aren't there other worlds too? How did you know I was the one who had the power to cross over worlds? Quote. The old god was silent for a moment. I didn't. I unconsciously clicked my tongue at the realization. You baited me, I said. I should have realized it earlier. He was vague with the information provided, and I was the one who answered him thinking he already knew everything. You overestimated the gods. And what were you doing? I retorted. This is part of your training. It is necessary for a ruler to not jump to conclusions and make decisions. You should have learned this by now. I can't believe you made a mistake even after living 2 lives. To be fair, only one life counts because in my first life I was a contractor, not a ruler. All the more reason to continue this training, my lord. Seeing the young demon lord stay silent, Oranos had a bad feeling. He was able to make a pact, and now it might go in vain if the lord is angry. So Oranos gave a small bow. I don't have anything to say other than sorry. Much to his relief, Rimuru shook his head. That's okay. It was my mistake, I said. But that doesn't mean I'm not frustrated. It was just like what happened with Varion and King of Bulmond. I might have to change my method before going back to Tempest, and without another word, I teleported from there. Third Pav. After the demon lord left, Oranos let out a sigh. He couldn't believe he managed to pull it off. He saw Fells approaching him. How did it go? It inquired. We managed to pull it off, Fells. The usual stoic god couldn't help showing his relief. Are you sure? It asked again. Right now that demon lord and his companions are more dangerous than anything the dungeon has to offer. Oranos nodded. I already acknowledged that fact, but it's not like we can do anything else. I am sure he and his friends are quite powerful if they manage to cross worlds, and not to mention one, his friends can stop time, and we don't know anything about the other 2. It will only be a massacre if we start a conflict with them. The old god is right. Fells recalled the cold eyes from earlier, still sending shivers through his meatless bones. It was like an almighty being when judging his worth. He didn't want to be in that kind of situation again, so what will we do? Oranos shook his head. There is nothing we can do. The question is what will they do about this? Fels recognized who Oranos meant by them. If he had eyes, it was sure that it would widen with surprise. Oranos, you are saying that they will make a move. For eons, they didn't make a move. They didn't even move when humanity was pushed to the brink of extinction, and even the gods frequently got sent back to heaven when dealing with them. You are saying that they will move for this demon lord. Yes, they will, because like me, they also know the gravity of the situation, and if anything could be done, only they can do it. Oranos took a deep breath. I might have to apologize to the demon lord for hiding the truth from him. Oranos had a little regret about it after all. If not for his prideful nature, the demon lord was quite friendly and reasonable, unlike most of the gods he has seen. But his personal feelings shouldn't be involved in his decision making, because countless lives depend on his decision. But what both Oranos and Fels didn't notice was a small metallic chip sticking to the wall in the hall outside the church. I also owe you an apology, Oranos, Rimuru said, watching the sky. He planted a microphone bug in the room invented by Vesta. Because this world also runs on magic and skill, they won't notice some things made with science technology. He regretted spying on someone who was now an ally, but hearing Oranos also hiding information made him feel relieved, as it wasn't one-sided distrust. We have to find who are the ones they referred to as they. Work on it. Tell me when things progress, as you wish, my lord. I then gave a last glance at the sky and then walked back inside the church. Tomorrow is going to be a long day, I thought. When I entered the room, I looked around. Belle and Hestia were both fast asleep. Well, it was past midnight, so I can't complain. Sensei, Chloe called out. She had a sheet in her hand, and behind her, both Veldora and Milim approached me. I put my finger on my lips, signaling not to create a commotion. Chloe handed me the sheet in her hand. Chloe AURT. L versus E. 98654. EVL. 4854. Det. 846. STRGTH. 54536. Enance. A number 812. Dexterity. AGT. S9296. Mamak. B5657. I asked Lady Hestia to try to give me a Falna, Chole answered. Looks like we are not compatible with Falna. I sighed. I sat on the ground, leaning back on the wall. The others followed in my suit, sitting in a circle. What happened in the guild, sensei? Nothing much. I told you not to worry. It's gonna be fine. Turns out Veldanava created a pact with the gods. The god in the guild, Oranos, asked me the reason why we broke that pact. But I sorted it out, so there is no need to be wary of them. Hoo-ha-ha-ha-ha. As expected of Rimuru. But what makes me curious is that my brother never told me about this world. Well, that's because there is nothing to gain by telling you, Veldora, I thought. But I have to take care of his request, but considering we have support from the guild, it is not a bad deal. All of them nodded. Now, I put the money bag at the center. I was able to secure some funds, and while adding it with the money Veldora gained, we have a decent amount. So feel free to take some with you, but spend it in moderation. Even though I said we have a decent amount, we need to save funds, as tomorrow I am planning to look for a place for us to stay. Meaning we may need the money for our familia's needs. Milim raised her hand. Can I buy tasty food? Yes, you can buy tasty food, but as I said, spend it conservatively. This time Veldora raised his hand. Can't we replicate this money? I sighed. We can't, you see. The material used to make the currency is pretty complicated, or it is supposed to be complicated. The design for the currency is unique. It is hard to replicate the design through normal means. But, let's just say I procure enough materials and I replicate the design perfectly. But even then there is a problem. I took out a coin and threw it at Veldora, which he caught. Examine it and tell me what you see. Veldora started to look at it curiously. You are right. It is made in a completely different design from our world. Well, that's because it is the currency of two different countries of two worlds, so of course, it will be different, I thought. Oh, some things are etched on it. Yeah, that is a code. I gave him another coin, and now tell me the difference between these two coins. Veldora examined both coins. The designs are pretty similar, but what is etched on seems to be different for each coin. That is correct, as two coins won't have the same code. At first glance it would look random, but believe me, there is an algorithm behind those numbers, and I'm pretty sure there are also other precautions taken against counterfeit currency. So we can't make money? Milim asked. No, if I have time I can analyze these coins, and after getting the materials I can create money. The real question is, do we care? Do we care? Chloe looked at me with confusion. Do we care about the influx of money from an unknown source? I pointed at us. A group of other worlders, create inflation of currency here? Do we care that because of inflation the value of the hard-earned money of a normal person will decrease and become useless? Do we care that people can't afford basic necessities because of the credit crisis we caused? Do we care that because of our selfish actions people die in this world? That sounds like a bad thing, Milim answered after hearing my explanation. I let out a chuckle at her comments. Yup, that is a pretty bad thing if you ask me. It will not be sudden, but eventually, all points listed will happen. But you said I shouldn't do bad things, so we shouldn't replicate the currency here. I looked at her fondly. Yes, we shouldn't, the other two nodded. I knew they would say this. Then a movement in the room caught all our attention. Hestia was sitting in the bed with a baffled expression. Please tell me you didn't just discuss a plan which could potentially kill hundreds of people and create chaos in Orario inside my home. I glanced at my companions. Then I looked at her with as much sincerity as I could muster up. We didn't discuss a plan which could potentially kill hundreds of people and create chaos in Orario inside your home. I saw her twitching. Why you? She said with a clenched fist. Now calm down. We aren't gonna do anything. Didn't you hear what Milim said? Doing bad things is forbidden. Besides, we too have morals, you know. Milim and Chloe nodded her head. I didn't know you were awake. Hestia let out a deep sigh. I was never asleep in the first place. I couldn't sleep. Her words brought some guilt upon me because it was me who put her through that stress. She did have a rough day. I smiled at her. I know trust cannot be built overnight. It would take time for us to build trust. As I said, I'm looking for a place to stay. We will not stay in this shabby abandoned setting much longer. About the deal earlier, if you want to break it then I will oblige. The thing is, Oranos asked me to work for the guild. So if you want we can leave now. Although, I might wipe out both Belle and your memory of us. No, I didn't mean it like that. I don't dislike you or anything. On the contrary, I am quite happy now that I have a proper familia, and I took a liking to Chloe-chan, Milim-chan. Veldora-san was also a pleasant company, and you Rimuru-san was very considerate of me. Until now I don't think you guys are bad people, and Belle-kun was also happy that you joined our familia. Hestia stood up and bowed her head. Thank you for joining my familia and I will be in your care. I stood up and bowed my head at her, and thank you for giving us a chance, and leave it to me. I don't know how this familia thing works, but you are my benefactor so you don't need to be afraid of me and you don't need to rush, we will just take it easy step by step, okay? The other three followed my pursuit. Please take care of us, they said in unison. I have a good feeling about this. A new world awaits us. And on the corner on the sofa Belle Crenelle slept without knowing these events. He was dreaming about the training he had with golden-haired princess.